Hello, I'm Robin, and welcome to BookSpin. A Closed and Common Orbit. Published in 2016, this is the second book in the Wayfarers quartet of novels by Becky. I'm pleased to say that this was a great read, it surpassed my expectations, and it delivers a beautiful story with intriguing and memorable characters. Whilst I did enjoy the first book, The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, I think the second novel is definitely a step up and is a true showcase of the talent of the author. So in order for me to introduce the plot for this novel, it may require me to drop some spoilers for the first book, just to warn you. However, the story is only very loosely connected between these two books. As I understand it, each book in the Wayfarers series is essentially a standalone novel set in the same universe. So, A Closed and Common Orbit follows two narrative threads that alternate chapter by chapter, each following a different character from different periods in time. The first timeline takes place just after the events in the first book, and follows an AI character called Sidra, who was formerly the sentient artificial intelligence system known as Lovelace on board the Wayfarer starship that we encounter in Book 1. She has a very advanced intelligence and is capable of very human emotions. After her ship was damaged, she was rebooted, her memories wiped clean, and under the care of Pepper, an engineer who risked her life to save her, she has now been housed in a new synthetic humanoid body. Unfortunately, this type of technology is illegal, and she has to pretend she is a human and hide her real identity in order to remain safe in this new planet-bound existence. Pepper has vowed to protect her and help her adjust to her new life. In this thread of the story, we follow her existential struggles as she tries to adapt to life in her new android body with all its physical limitations and the challenges posed from living in a society she is not designed for. So that's the first narrative strand, but we also have this parallel story in which the timeline starts around 20 years in the past, and we follow Pepper's character in her early years and her adolescence, and she's born into a genetically engineered slave class on a planet where young girls are cloned and forced to work in factories, where she's assigned the name Jane 23. So she spends her childhood working in this factory, taking apart scrap metal to salvage working components in a factory that is supervised by these really creepy robots known as mothers. And I think this is a really compelling piece of dystopian world building. She has no idea of the outside world and has never even seen the sky before, until one day she finds a way to escape the factory following an industrial accident, and then she finds herself in a vast scrapyard inhabited by these vicious mutant dogs that start chasing her. She discovers a crashed and broken spaceship where she proceeds to take shelter, where her only company is this onboard AI called Owl, who essentially adopts her and becomes her teacher to help her survive in this harsh and desolate environment. So those are the two narratives, and they're both very interesting in their own way. And while it may not be apparent at first how exactly they are connected, throughout the text, it all gradually comes together very neatly. This book also retains one of the greatest strengths of the first novel, of great character development, with a small cast of complex and interesting and likable characters encompassing humans, aliens, and AIs. In fact, I would say that this story has one of the best AI character studies that I've ever come across in the person of Sidra. The author really knows how to get inside the AI's head as she navigates her new existence in this new body. So, for instance, whenever the writer refers to the AI's body, she doesn't call it her body, she calls it her kit, and frequently talks of her kit doing something. So instead of saying she shook her head, she would say the kit shook its head, which sounds strange, but it reminds the reader that the AI is using her body kit as a tool rather than it being an essential part of herself. And there are so many interesting little touches like this. Her android body is designed in such a way as to pass as a human in whatever way possible, even allowing her bodily functions that she doesn't actually need, such as a circulatory system of fake but convincing blood and the capability of eating and drinking. But rather than just being a purely functional ability to ingest food, which she doesn't need, of course, the act of eating or drinking a particular thing triggers false memory files in the AI's mind. So, for example, she could have a vision of a sleeping cat lying in the sun, or the feeling of stepping into a nice hot bath. And these are kind of like artificially induced Proustian moments. This allows the AI to obtain sensory pleasure from food in a unique way, so she can still enjoy eating with people even while she lacks human taste buds and has no need for nutrition. It's little things like this that add to the story's charm, I think. I'd also say that this novel has a more tightly focused story than the first book, with somewhat more dramatic tension than its predecessor. And this, combined with the depth and likability of the characters and some wonderful world building, makes A Closed and Common Orbit a very polished book which I can highly recommend. I'm giving this a score of 4.5 stars. And even though I've heard some mixed views on books 3 and 4, I am looking forward to continuing the series. BookSpinner time. I am trying to cut back on buying new books for the minute because I've got so many books here in my TBR that I really want to read. So let's see what the next one's going to be. Cosmicomics. Cosmicomics by Italo Calvino. This is a short story collection, and it was originally published in Italian in 1965, and the English translation came out in 1969. This is the Penguin clothbound edition, and it doesn't have a synopsis on the back. So I'm just going to have a quick look to see what it says on Amazon. It says 12 enchanting and fantastical stories about the evolution of the universe from the giant of Italian literature, Italo Calvino. His characters, whether human, dinosaur, or mollusk, disport themselves among galaxies, experience solidification of planets, move from aquatic to terrestrial existence, play games with hydrogen atoms, and have time for a love life. And Ursula K. Le Guin says, a landmark in fiction, the work of a master. This is going to be an interesting one. I have read Italo Calvino before, and I think he's an interesting postmodernist author. I don't really know much of what this is going to be like, but I'll let you know soon. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more science fiction content.